In business, there's a lot of people that will not care about you as a person. They care about the result that they're wanting to achieve. So never forget about that. Don't be naive. Don't just go for the shiny objects like I used to do. Trust your gut and know your people.
Hello and welcome back to another episode on the Beauty Industry Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Kennedy. Today's guest is no stranger to reinvention. With over 16 years in the beauty industry, Shamara Jarrett has done it all. From her early days in the beauty salon to working in luxury day spas on the Hayman Island to body sugaring in Brisbane, she's been a business development manager, educator, and most recently built and sold a multi-million-dollar franchise clinic. And now she's disrupting the game with a brand new tech startup and podcast. What sets Shamara apart is her willingness to keep evolving even when the path was anything but smooth. From business betrayal and bankruptcy to rebuilding, realigning, and creating a platform that supports professionals across the industry, her story is one of grit, growth, and game-changing vision. Shamara, welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling today?
Thanks, Sammy. What an introduction. I'm feeling good.
Are you feeling a little bit excited that you're not the one actually doing the podcast episode? You're getting interviewed this time around?
It feels really different. I feel like I'm in the hot seat and I'm like, yeah, I guess because I know that we're going to talk about some really, really challenging times through my career, but also really, really exciting times. So I feel all the emotions today.
Oh, I'm excited for this because I know any guest that comes onto this podcast always is like, oh my gosh, like what if I say that, or someone doesn't like this, or, you know, what will people think? And more often than you think, you'll actually receive a lot of messages from people about, wow, I really relate to that, or I had no idea. Thank you for sharing. It's such a weird thing. Like I find podcasting to be almost liberating because it's like free therapy. You're just like speaking out what's genuinely on your mind, and 9 times out of 10, someone's going to relate to that. So for people who don't know you, who is Shamara Jarrett outside of business?
Yeah, when I read this question, I actually found it quite tricky to kind of break myself away from being a business owner and who actually am I, especially because it's so fresh after selling my business recently. So who am I? I'm from New Zealand. I moved here in 1995, which shows my age. So I was only 5 years old. And I understand that that comes with a lot of privilege because there's so many more opportunities over here in Australia. And that's absolutely what how I have lived my life, is taking any opportunities that come to me and just rolling with it. But I'm a mum. I have 2 beautiful boys. They're 3 and 5. I am also a wifey. So we've been married for 7 years, and it's a really funny story actually, because we got engaged and then we married 1 month before we opened my clinic. And I've never actually had a honeymoon. So that's just
pending.
Typical. Yeah. Well, it's typical business owner. And when you've got kids, I don't want to leave my kids because they're so little still. And we want to do, like, when we do our honeymoon, we're going to go somewhere amazing. But to be confirmed, I love to be outside. So I find that I'm super bubbly. I am outgoing, but I really cherish my peace too. I love to be outdoors where there's nobody around. I don't have to talk to anybody, and I can just be in the water. We live 5 minutes from the beach. We live on rural property, so 7.5 acres, and my kids are always on motorbikes outside. So I do like that quiet life as well.
So whereabouts in Australia do you currently live?
I'm on the Sunshine Coast. I'm very, very blessed.
Oh, so you got nice weather up there.
Yeah, right now it feels like it's spring coming into spring already. It's beautiful.
Wow. Yeah, I can't say the same for Perth. We've literally been having the worst rain. I haven't wanted to leave my house, and getting up and going to the gym just feels like hell because it's so cold. So I envy that good
and
weather.
It's dark. Yeah, no, we're very lucky today anyway.
So I love this. You're a mum, you're a wife, you're a bit of an maybe introverted extrovert? Like
I
you like
am,
your
yeah.
peace,
Yeah,
but you come out of your shell with your people?
yeah, like I've got a very small circle of friends. We keep it tight, and when I'm around them, you know what you like. You just vibe with people on your level, and I just keep it small, and I cherish those times. Yeah, but I love to be outside, and I like my quiet time as well.
Amazing. So let's take it all the way back to where everything started in 2009. Gosh, I would have been 7 years old. You graduated with your diploma of beauty therapy. What made you want to initially enter the beauty industry?
It's a really funny story. So as I said, I'm from New Zealand and no one in my family had ever gone to university. So I made it all the way to grade 12. Even my older sister, she dropped out when she was in grade 10. And my parents were so excited. And I got, back then it was called an OP in Queensland. So it's like QCS. I don't know what they call it everywhere else, QTAR or ATAR. I got a good enough, ATAR. I got a good enough OP to get into the Australian Catholic University. It's called ACU. And into a nursing degree, into a Bachelor of Nursing. And my parents were completely furious with me because I decided I didn't want to do that. I was 17 and I knew better, and I wanted to enroll and pay for my diploma of beauty therapy myself. And like they're completely supportive now, and they kind of warmed up to the idea, but they were like, "What are you doing, Shamara? You're going to go and do beauty therapy and do nails and waxing. Like, are you stupid?" Like, it's just crazy. But I would never take it back now. It was the best decision I ever made.
Out of curiosity, because I know you've obviously owned a couple of businesses now, and so does your husband. Were you always entrepreneurial? Like when you grew up, were either of your parents entrepreneurial, or were they just working 9 to 5s and kind of in that comfort zone?
I wouldn't say they were, but my mum had a wine business, so she wouldn't import them, but she had a winery business and she was a subcontractor. So she used to deliver wine to really expensive houses and businesses. But I wouldn't say they were entrepreneurial at all. It was just that I saw my parents, I guess, struggle. They worked their butts off, even 9 to 5, and mum being mum, she had 3 daughters. Work all day, sometimes later than what we would get home from school. And I just watched them really struggle and battle. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to be my own person, definitely, but I want to succeed, and I'm going to succeed. So I think when you've got family around you that they're such hard workers, that really, really imprints on you as a person. And that's definitely what it did to me.
Yeah, you can see that as well. Like that generation, they are living a completely different kind of working career life than what we would see now. Absolutely. When you look at our parents' kind of generations, like they worked for one employer for their whole life. Yeah. They stayed loyal to that company. There's people out there who are getting like 20 years of hard work and dedication, whereas you look at Gen Z or some millennials now, it's like they only stay at a job for, 2 to 5 years, if that, and then they're just always moving about. So I think you seeing that hard work early on and knowing what it takes would have also been a huge driver for you, not knowing, hey, this business is going to be instant success. You know that it's going to be a pathway that you have to follow through with.
Yeah.
I know you've had a bit of a wild ride. Beauty salons, Hayman Island, Pure Indulgence, and eventually working for a skincare and machinery distribution company. How did those early experiences shape the way you see the industry today?
It was really interesting. As a really naive younger person, I was just so hungry. So I literally tried everything. If I felt like I could no longer grow or learn something new, I would just switch it up. And now when I think back to myself, I would have been 18, 19. I think I was 19 when I flew to Hayman Island and decided I'm going to work in an amazing day spa. But even then, that was a big shock to myself because you're on a secluded island. It's not as glamorous as what you think it's going to be. There's a lot of great parts to the beauty industry, and there's a lot of parts that obviously customers and clients don't see. And even as an employee, you don't see it until you're in there and you realize that your business owner is working really hard. You realize that it takes a lot to actually get customers in the door. You realize that there's so many different pieces of machinery and equipment and product lines and ingredients. It's just so much to learn. So I feel like for me, I've obviously watched the industry change and evolve over time. And
Yep.
that was so important for me because it was just the building blocks and it also helped to shape me as a person today and how I deal with business.
How did working for other people first shape the way that you ran your business? Because obviously having those experiences, getting to work for different employers, you learn different things versus just going and getting your beauty diploma and then starting your own business.
Yeah, I think it taught me to know your people, know who are actually inside your business and who's actually in there because it's your reputation on the line. There was a specific incident that I still remember to this day. It was from a beauty salon, and me being from New Zealand, mixed race, it was just so impactful to me with how I know that I treat people today. And I was a brand new beauty therapist. I didn't really know much about makeup at all. And we got a brand new makeup line in, I can't even remember the name of it, but all the staff, we were all learning how to color match the specific brand because all the brands could be slightly different in their tones and colors and pigments. Anyway, so they all had a go, and there was this senior therapist who was essentially, I guess, the manager of that business. And it was my turn to go ahead and color match my skin. And I will never forget, she literally said to me, just don't even worry about it because there's not going to be a color that suits you. An instance like this is so detrimental to a junior therapist. And for me as a leader in my businesses and what I've learned when I run my businesses and how I mentor my staff is how you treat people really matters. And that was just one instance that has really, really stuck with me. And in my head, I was like, okay, this is really, really hurtful and this really hurt my feelings. But me as a person, I've always felt, well, I know how not to treat people in the future. And I also know how to lead better than what that person did. So even though it was a really negative experience, I try to always take the positive from it and then how I can change how I am as a person or how I am as a mentor to my staff. Which when you think about it, it was so awful, but it was a positive way that I could flip the script for me and my staff in the future. And then I'll tell you about another story, Sammy. When I was up in Hayman Island, I think I was 19 when I was up there. And I remember I was new. I did the elective in my diploma to do spa because back then you could only do, it's just wild, you could only do electrolysis. That was your form of permanent hair reduction, or you could do spa, and that's the choices that you had. So I did spa. I thought it would be amazing and glamorous. I got up there. Anyway, and then they asked me to do a makeup on a bride on Hayman Island who would have been paying, I don't know, hundreds of thousands for their wedding. And then here I was, a junior therapist trying to do this makeup, had no idea about the products. And I was like, oh my God, this person, if she can afford to be here on Hayman Island, one, and then if she can afford to get married on Hayman Island, they just threw me in the deep end. And again, that was something that I learned. I just did it. And I feel like I did an okay job. I would not say that it was a 5-star, amazing makeup for a bride. Anyway, but I did it. And that experience again for me was, okay, if I'm going to have junior staff, I need to not put them in those positions where they feel so incredibly nervous and stressed and the anxiety because they're not going to perform well. And again, that helped to shape me.
Yeah, that's just crazy. I get the whole sink or swim, throw someone in the deep end and see how they go. But, maybe do it with a model who's not getting charged or something first. Not a freaking wedding. Like, that's so extreme. I really feel for you. That would have been a lot of pressure, especially because you know how important that day is for someone. It's not like it's just, we're coming in, we're doing a trial, it's a free model. It's like this is the biggest day of their life,
And photos, like it was not photography quality makeup, all these. Yeah, it was just wild. And then I guess I've got one other story which helped to build up my resilience so much. So when I was a rep, I was a business development manager and I had a territory that I was allocated that I had to look after. And again, I was a very, very new rep. I felt like they did allow me to shadow another rep and then watch how to cold call and walk into businesses and present our line and whatever we sold. And I remember the first day, I was given a compressor Mercedes from the company. They looked after me. I moved to Sydney from Queensland. And then after my training and induction, I was given a territory to look after, and then off you go, a single person, super young, in my 20s, going around driving in a Mercedes in the city, which I'd never done like that before, and just walking into these businesses and being like, hi, I'm Shamara. I'm from this company. These are the products that I sell, and then literally telling me to get the fuck out. Like, it was just it built up so much resilience for me. At first, I was just very, very naive. I didn't know what people would be like. Some people were great and they were so kind and so generous with their time. And then you get these other people that would be like, who are you? Get out of my salon. I don't have time for you. You didn't schedule anything. Don't call me, which I totally get as well from a business owner. But that 100% helped me build a backbone to just not care what anyone thinks.
It's so true, though. They say the people who are in sales roles, especially having to do door knocking and things like real estate, if you can survive 2 years of that, you can survive anything. It's kind of one of those opportunities where you're going to get rejected a lot, but you're also going to understand how to communicate better, how to build better relationships, and how to bounce back from failure faster than anyone else. Because for you, this is something I find really interesting. Like, do you ever find when you're selling for someone else, you can go do that stuff, but then when it comes to selling yourself, you're just like, no, I'm just not going to do it?
Yeah, I feel like there's, again, that imposter syndrome that we always talk about. It's like, am I good enough? Is my product what I say? Like, it's just all those thoughts. It's just the overthinking, and I'm really good at it. I overthink everything. But I have learned as well just to shut that down, put that to the side. And if I'm going to do it, just go for it.
Very valuable advice. So I know you went through a really difficult period with the body sugaring business. What was the biggest lesson you took from that chapter, both personally and professionally?
Yeah, look, the body sugaring chapter of my life was one of the biggest learnings that I've ever had to go through. I thought I had a really great relationship with someone, a good business relationship with someone. They were dangling the shiny territory that could be mine, that I could own in front of me. They flew me to Cosmoprof in Hong Kong. We presented on stage. We talked to international distributors from a sales perspective. I was trying to support them as well as them trying to support me. But at the end of the day, when it comes to it, I think the biggest lesson that I learned is that the shiny object dangling in front of you, you really need to do your groundwork and your due diligence. And I just didn't do that. I was young, I was naive, I was super excited for an amazing business opportunity. Didn't read the contracts. I didn't understand the contracts. I didn't get the contracts looked at by a lawyer. That was on my side. I literally just went in blind, thought it was going to be a great experience. And in turn, it ended up being one of the most financially debilitating times in my life for me and also my family in the future. Because when you go bankrupt, it sits with you for X amount of years. So you're not able to then move on and buy a home or enter into a new company, which you shouldn't be able to do that. You shouldn't be able to just shut down a company and start again. I think there should be some kind of reconciliation with that. But I think I trusted people that didn't necessarily have my best interests at heart. They were too worried about themselves and they were just trying to use me to get that market share. So it was probably one of the hardest times for me as a person. And I had met my partner then, who is now my husband. And for us, that was a really tough time because that was a new relationship. But like I said earlier, Sammy, at the time, I was so depressed and I just couldn't get out of bed and I couldn't think of anything else. And thank God for him because he really pulled me out of it. But I just learned I've really got to be careful with how I move in business. I might have the skill and I might be able to perform a treatment, but I didn't then at that time have the business acumen. I had to learn that. And there was a lot of growth that I needed to do as a person. And I'm okay with sharing that now. Probably if you had have asked me, even before I opened my laser clinic, my most recent business, I probably wouldn't have wanted to talk about it. So just because it was such a hard time for me, and I was probably had a little bit of shame attached to it, being bankrupt. But the more and more that I learned as a business owner, you have to, get to the lowest of lows to get the highest of highs, and that's okay. And that's where growth happens. Whereas when I looked at that experience, I thought, oh my God, like I'm a failure. How did I make this decision? Or look at all the people that I potentially let down. And that really hurt me as a person. Whereas now I'm like, it is what it is. It happened. And what did I learn from it? So it's just changing that mindset.
Thank you for openly sharing that, because I know for many people who have gone through something like that, it can be a lot of shame and embarrassment, and you think, oh, what will other people think? But on the other side of that, I almost hear that story and I get excited for you, because I know the average millionaire, like they say the average person goes bankrupt like 3 times before they make their first million. And I also know that broke is a mindset, but bankrupt is temporary. And I know for anyone who's gone through financial hardship, when you're in the thick of it, it just feels like your whole world is caving in. You've got no support systems. You're like, how the hell will I ever get out of this? But I had this quote that I put on my story the other day. I actually need to find it because it's going to be so relevant to what we're talking about. And the quote says, "Money is overrated. Truly new things rarely need an abundance of money. If that was so, billionaires would have a monopoly of inventing new things, and they don't. Instead, almost all breakthroughs are made by those who lack money. If breakthroughs could be bought, then the rich would buy them. Instead, passion, persistence, belief, and ingenuity are required to invent new things. Qualities the poor and young often have in abundance, so stay hungry." And I'm like listening to your story and I'm like, this is literally probably the one thing that has actually been so traumatic for you. I'm not going to, undermine that, but also probably the biggest driver of like how you have then gone on to have a franchise clinic, gone and sold that. And now you're in this new opportunity of developing an app. So with that being said, I want to dive into your experience with having a franchise clinic. And I know that some people can have a really positive experience, a really negative experience, and I don't want to like name and shame anything, as I'm sure you don't either. But really, the reason why I want to talk about this is because I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast have actually gone out and started their own business rather than actually go through a franchise. And I think it's a really interesting topic to approach with curiosity. So after all of these experiences, working on Hayman Island, the body sugaring business and everything like that, how did you get to the point of actually buying into a franchise clinic chain and having your own clinic? What was that experience like, building it up from scratch?
Yeah, so after I declared bankruptcy, I left the industry completely. I worked with kids with disabilities and I just needed a break and just to recruit. When I was ready to come back, I decided that, okay, what's safe for me? And what felt safe was, I know I wanted to learn something new and something that I didn't already know. And I know there was all these chain clinics popping up, and they were at that time known for taking on new therapists, training them in laser technologies, and being able to get a full-time job, which is really important for me. And for me, I started in that business all for those reasons. And I was lucky enough to be trained in laser. In Queensland, it's heavily regulated, so you must have licenses registered with Queensland Health. So they did all of that for me. They paid for it and supported me with a full-time job. So for me, I was like, this is great. I love it. I've got so much I can learn. It's new. I've never done laser before, and I was so excited. And I think I chose a chain clinic because it felt safe to me. It felt like they had a great reputation. They've got they're well established in the market. And for me, that felt okay after that experience that I had. The journey itself, so from actually being an employee to then working my way up to be a business owner, it definitely was a journey. I was so lucky because the owner that I had a position with, her clinic, she owns multiple clinics, and she was a therapist herself. So it was so important because I had this amazing mentor who I could learn off, and we really, I guess, built a friendship together. She really helped nurture me. She helped shadow me in the treatment room. I was able to learn new skills, but also learn over time, being promoted to manager and running one of the busiest clinics in Queensland. I was able to understand the operations and how many really strict systems and protocols were in place for these busy businesses to be able to operate efficiently, effectively, and for everybody to know exactly what their roles are, what they needed to do, and then in turn make sales and profit. Back in those days, it was, I guess, the monopoly. There wasn't so many competitors out there in terms of like chain clinics, and we were one of the only in our local area. So I call it the heyday of the franchise business, was when we would do a one-off 50% off sale. It wouldn't be a 50% off sale every other month. And back then, I remember we would have 3 phones on our reception desk, and we would have 2 or 3 phones at the back in the office that wasn't visible to customers. And when that sale kicked off, we would have a form and we would answer the phone one after another, taking all their details. They would prepay for their services. It was wild. And not only were the phones going off its head, it was a line at the front of the shopping centre door, around the corner, past all the retailers, like at least nearly like 50, 60 metres long. And people would just be waiting to get in to tap their card and prepay for their services because we had a 50% off sale. And that was my first introduction into a chain business. And it was so completely different to a spa, a salon, where they predominantly just do waxing or facials. It was just so different and exciting. And the company back then was incredible. It was very simple. They had not a lot of services. So they predominantly focused on laser hair removal, and then there were some skin treatments, but it wasn't their main focus. And then they also did cosmetic injecting, which back then there was a bit of a stigma still back then about cosmetic injecting. So it was a really simple business model, and I really enjoyed it as an employee. And I thought, if I get the opportunity to open one, and I know I can do this. She's mentored me. She's taught me how to run staff. She's taught me how to mentor other staff, lead a team, have incredibly high targets, but hit them. And because we had this amazing structure and business model behind us, and the brand, which was so important, and brand still is so important, I can do this. And so I convinced my husband, and we were ready to go. So we got a site. We had to pitch to the board of the franchise team to take us on board. And it was actually quite interesting because my mentor, they definitely backed me and said, Shamara, she has the capabilities to be able to open a clinic. We vouch for her. She thinks she's going to be great. And I'll always be grateful for that. And then we opened our location. So it was quite interesting. The board at first were a little bit hesitant because I was just a beauty therapist. And we'll talk about that, I guess, that quote later. But I was just a beauty therapist on paper. I only had a diploma in beauty therapy. I wasn't anyone special. I didn't do a full business degree. I'd had businesses in the past, but obviously I had one that failed. So They definitely backed me to be able to get that location. And it was quite simple, the whole onboarding process. I didn't really have to think too much, whereas businesses I've had in the past, it was all me, and I had to work out the systems and I had to work out the structure. Everything was done for you. And I think that's the most appealing part of a franchise. And that's the best part of a franchise, that support. So where it started to change for me after owning the business for a couple of, I guess, about 18 months to 2 years, was that they went through, and this is all widely information that's available online, they went through a change of hands where private equity actually bought out the founders of that company. And that's where things started to change from a support office perspective. So new NPD or new product development started to get introduced into the business model that wasn't necessarily aligned with what we used to do. It was new, it was different, and it was really exciting. And I advocated for that because I thought, me being me, I want something new, I want something shiny, I want to learn something new, and I want my team to also have that opportunity to learn something new. But unfortunately, that's where the business model started to not be clear to our customers. And we started to do things that didn't align with what our brand, I guess, what our original brand vision was and what made us different and unique. And then not only that, the discounting started to become more frequent, which we know every time you discount, that's your profit that you're eating into. And
it's not just your profit though, it's your brand reputation. If you do a once-off discount, it's like cool, but if you're doing it every single quarter or month or week, it starts to make your brand look cheap. People don't trust you.
Absolutely, and they just don't respect what they're buying. It's just there's so many things that come into it, and that's when I started to feel like, okay, this isn't for me. It doesn't align with what or how I think the business needs to be run. I was lucky enough to be a part of a national advisory committee. So we used to have an established committee where it was just a group of owners that would be categorized into different areas of the business, and the corporate support office would listen to our thoughts and feelings about different changes that were happening with the company, and then we could talk about it, and then we could come to some kind of middle.
Can I just ask a question? And look, you don't have to answer it if you're not comfortable sharing. What was the cost of buying into that franchise? So do you buy, obviously, the rights to own that clinic, and then you also had to pay for the fit out, which they kind of provide you with, because obviously it has to be aligned with all the other all the other businesses that are within that franchise. Like, how did that work for you? What was the initial investment for you that you had to get together after going bankrupt to start this business?
Every site location is different. So depending on the size of the site, probably can't go into specific details, but what I can say is that every franchise model is kind of different. So you might have 100% ownership of that franchise and you're buying the brand. In turn of that, you get charged royalties because you are part of that network, but you own 100% of that business as a franchise owner. Whereas the business that I was a part of, you were 50-50, so you were partners. So for me, that's why I felt safe, because I thought, well, if I fail, they fail. And the amount that I had to invest, it was worked out. And I was comfortable with that at the time. Obviously, we had to find that money, but I was comfortable with that investment because I thought, okay, this model's different to others that I've looked at. And I've been working in the business and I'm satisfied that it's going in the right places. You can never just foresee that incrementally charges and fees would be added on top of what you originally signed up for. So I guess that's as well, that's widely publicized in the media. We had a group of owners that left quite abruptly and quite loudly. And a lot of those grievances were unfortunately aired everywhere, which was detrimental to all our businesses, especially when we were still trading. So I didn't want to do things that way, even though I probably agreed with some of their points that they weren't happy with, the constant discounting, the fees, the push to get new machinery in that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. That wouldn't really change how profitable we'd be as a business, because that's just another liability that we would have to pay for. But there were so many things that I did agree with. I didn't want to go down that route, but it was detrimental to us. Sorry, I forgot where I was going. Yeah, so I think I've said the royalty fees. I think that would be okay saying that, because it is out in the media. It's not something that's new knowledge at all.
And obviously, based on your experience now, having seen the ins and out of a franchise model where there's different fees involved, there's systems and processes, the support, would you, if you were to go back in time, choose to go with a franchise, or would you have just gone out on your own knowing what you know now?
I think there's probably two parts to this, because the systems, the protocols, for example, we had an amazing medical advisory committee. So if there was any complications with injectables or laser, we could just call our doctors, Skype them, and it would be specific to our industry. It wouldn't just be a GP that you video call. So all of that is incredible. And the brand was there. The brand value was there. But I don't know. I would. There's probably two parts to this. I would if they were willing to compromise on some of the clauses that I had issues with. And, some things might be fees. So I want everything to be black and white. This is what it is, and this isn't going to change. If I had something like that with a business model, I would, because I did enjoy that franchise business, because I felt like there was so much growth. There were so many learnings. It was an excellent experience. And for me, I will always be forever grateful because it allowed me to build my family home. It allowed me to do so many things financially. It allowed me to be flexible with my time and be at home with my babies. Like, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was a full-time therapist just at home. So I'll always be grateful for that. But I don't know. And then on the other hand, I have so many skills now where I know exactly what works and I know the systems in place and I could build it out so that I don't have to answer to anybody. And then it's just me. So look, probably I would just do it myself. But if there was a unicorn franchise business that was willing to listen and I could be more involved in the decision making of the company, and that was all written in my contract, because I did do it differently with this business. I did go through the contracts. I did get a solicitor to go through it. I did look through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and I did object to some parts of the clauses in the contract, but they weren't willing to change. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, I think that's really valuable to know as well, because I've tried to get different guests on and learn the different perspectives of the industry, because I've had some clients who have been sole traders. I've had clients with multi-million-dollar businesses. I've had clients who have worked in franchises. I've had clients who just work for themselves. And there's, like you're saying, pros and cons to everything. And one thing I've noticed that the franchises do really well, like you're saying, is the systems and processes. The smaller business owners who go out on their own and they just try build it from the ground up, and then they just hire a new therapist as the demand grows. Unless they have a business consultant come in, or a really good coach or mentor or someone who can support them and show them what those systems and processes need to look like, a lot of the time they are just chaos in the back end. Yes, they might have lots of clients. Yes, they may be servicing and making good dollars, but in terms of the consistency, the efficiency, everything like that, it can be a really big strain. Hence why I do think some of these franchise business models do have the opportunity to be able to scale faster and handle that type of clientele, because they know the systems and processes in and out. It's just like a McDonald's. Like, once you've got all your recipes, you've got all your timings down packed, all your softwares, like, you just copy and paste. But I think something that can happen with the franchises is, as more and more franchises open up within the franchise, you start to notice that each clinic will have their own kind of values or their own kind of way of running it. And then that's when you can get the inconsistencies across the franchise, and trying to control that is so much work. Like, if you're someone who's an innovator and loves to have all these new ideas, I could imagine it would feel quite disheartening at times when you're trying to voice a new strategy or idea. So I can see, like, yes, this part, but also no to other parts. You scaled your business to over $2 million per year before selling it. And that's a massive achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What were some of the things that you did really well that helped you get to that level?
I really focused on what I could control within my business. So things like my team. And that was so important to me. I had staff that I actually brought into this location from where I worked prior to that. And I had an incredible relationship with them. So some of my staff, and I guess that's what franchise businesses are sometimes well known for, is high staff churn. We didn't have that at my location. We had staff members that were with me pretty much from the start all the way to the end. Or the only reason why they exited was, because they had to move into state, or something happened with their family, or they were studying a degree and then they finally graduated, and then I was so excited because they got to do something new for themselves. So I really celebrated those things. And I think if you can show your staff growth, if you can get on their level and understand what they go through day to day and the challenges that they're coming up against. For me, I focused on my team because that's what I could control. And because we had such great relationships, we were able to really work with those staff members to hit those high targets that they needed to make to hit, in turn, the high revenue for that year. Another thing I sort of focused on as well was, starting to build on social media. I it was kind of something new for me. Social media was just starting to take off. So we're trying to get out who we are, what we're about, and do some local area marketing for our local area to let people know that I am a therapist, I am the owner, and I'm there all the time. So they got used to seeing my face. It was really funny. So I'd be at Woolworths or something near the clinic, and then someone would come to me and go, "Oh, you're that boss lady. I need to tell you something." And then they'd tell me something. It might be good, might be not so good, but it's something that we can work on. So I really valued that customer experience, getting to know my customers over nearly 7 years. And with that, they kind of grow with you and they go through all different seasons in their life, as do you. So that was something that I really made sure that we looked after our customers. We made sure that we had the little touch points that, we still might have short, sharp treatments, but we were able to just tweak it a little bit and do it differently at our location. That was within reason. That was still on brand for our company, but it would be memorable for that customer, so they do still keep coming back. Also, education for my team. So I think being a tech myself, and I always used to get in and do laser treatments. It was one of the times where I would do a laser Brazilian underarms. I would talk to a customer and then I'd find out that this wasn't getting done or that wasn't getting done, or I'd find out that that therapist was amazing and they just want to see her, and I'd find out why, So I think that was really interesting. And then if there were any areas that we could improve on, I would be aware of it because I was in the rooms. So then we could put together an educational plan, or what do we need to work on with her, or she needs help with this particular skill, or she needs help with consulting, or whatever it may be, or just taking a really good treatment photo, whatever it was. I think being on the ground and in the rooms, that was how I was able to in turn get sales. And for me, that's what I focused on. That's what I could change within my business to be impactful.
Did you find that after a while in the business, you had to actually step away from doing so many clients so that you could actually focus on growing it?
100%. I wasn't in there. When I say I was in there, it would probably be like if I was in for a day and the girls were really busy or they were getting behind, I would just jump in and do a quick treatment. So it wasn't like I was treating back to back all day. I would always be in the office doing what I need to do to focus on the business. But it was important to me to still be in the rooms and helping the team when they're struggling. So then I can obviously focus on the business. I would say if you ask my team if I ever worked back to back in the last 2 years in the room, no. Unless someone was sick, because in Queensland licensing is a big issue, because if they don't have a laser license, they can't operate a laser. So there might be days where I'd be in there and I'd have to treat back to back. It is what it is, and I'm happy to do it. But I love those days because I get really competitive with my girls and we get really excited and they're like, "Oh, Sham's in here. Okay, let's try and beat her sales for the day." And it'd be really fun. So just creating that really good culture with my team, and I guess, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I know you tried to sell your business not once but twice. That's a huge thing. What did it take to finally get the sale across the line? Because I know I have another client and she is in a franchise chain and they've locked her in for 15 years. It's crazy.
Wow.
Like 15 years, to sign a contract, most businesses don't make it past the 2-year mark, let alone 5 or 10. Like 15 years is a huge amount. What did it look like for you?
It was an experience. So I think the biggest issue was that support office didn't want to address that they had a dinosaur in their head office, and she was just there to keep you in there for life. And that's how it felt. The tricky language or how it was written was that they had the final okay whether they were a suitable candidate. And that's where it got really messy and really great. So when I think back to it, I think that the person that was handling the onboarding and the exiting of franchisees was cock-blocking in effect. She wasn't willing to look at anybody new because she knew that you could operate those businesses well and they didn't want you to leave. So that's how I felt in that, and that was just my experience. But then there was a light at the tunnel because that person exited and we had this amazing new person, which was like night and day. So I told her how I felt, what my position was and why I wanted to exit, and she was fully supportive of it. So I think that sometimes, unfortunately, it just depends on the person that you're speaking to. And that person at the time, she was the highest that I could go to, and she was the person that had the final say.
Okay, real talk. If you're a beauty business owner and you're still doing everything yourself, from posting on socials to replying to DMs on the toilet, creating reels at 11 p.m. in bed, trying to keep your books full, lead a team, and somehow still show up as a decent partner, friend, or parent, this is for you. I created Booked, Banked, and In Demand because I was that burnt out business owner once. Always working in the business, never having enough time to actually work on it. I've now taught the strategies inside this training to over 300 salon owners who have gone on to triple their revenue, become the go-to name in the area, and finally get off the income roller coaster, burnout, and chasing clients. It's also the system I used to build a multi-six-figure coaching business and scale a 7-figure bowling alley in 7 months. Because once you know how to attract clients, convert leads, and create consistent cash flow in your business, it works anywhere. Inside Booked, Banked, and In Demand, you'll learn how to attract dream clients on autopilot with the content that consistently fills your calendar, lock in 90% plus rebooking rates so your income isn't riding a roller coaster every single week, and delegate the back end to a VA so you can step out of burnout mode, reclaim your time, and focus on doing more of what you actually enjoy, whether that's growing your business or taking a damn holiday that you know you deserve. So if you're tired of doing it all and ready to get more clients, make more money, and finally have more time freedom again, this is your sign. Click the link in the show notes and let Booked, Banked, and In Demand be the last training you'll ever need.
So when this new staff member came on board, it was a completely different experience. It probably also was a different experience because I sold to another franchise owner that was already in the network. So they'd already vetted her. She'd already shown that she could run these businesses. She understood the model. She understood how they worked. And she was a really good operator. And that, I guess, gave me a little bit of relief because I knew that my staff were going to be left in good, capable hands. It wasn't like I had to try and train someone up before I left. She could just walk in and go, which was fantastic. So I think it was a positive experience at the end. But what I didn't like was that, unfortunately, they had people in certain powers within the company that really restricted how you exited the business. If you are on a franchise or if you're part of these business models, make sure you know your exit and make sure you know how that process is handled and who is the person that you're going to be dealing with and who has the final say. At the end of the day, you can't control what other people do, but if you understand the process and how that actually works when the time comes, because stuff happens in life. You know, you might have to suddenly move interstate and you're no longer able to run that business effectively. It would be in their best interest to get you out and get someone else in, you know, and I had just had my second baby and I was like, I really just want to be a mum. I don't want to be at work and have all these stresses of 12 staff. I just want out. And the business was changing obviously at that time. So that was another driver for my thoughts and feelings at the time. But yeah, I just felt like I was locked in. It all ended well and we happily exited. But I wouldn't say even then when you're looking at your exit for business models like this is how do they value your worth of your business at that time? Because that was something that was really interesting because I never sold a business. I didn't know what the calculator was to know what your business is worth. And everybody calculates your business or the worth of your business differently. There's like a golden formula that you use to value a business, but it doesn't mean to say that that's how they're going to value it when it comes down to it, because the franchisor might value it differently to how your accountant might value it or how you might value it. So you need to have that written in your contract because there's no one rule at all.
So it's quite interesting because there's so many different things to consider about the valuation of a business. It could be its profit. It could be the actual fit out. It could be the machines. Like there's so many different ways to sell a business too. You might just sell your equipment. You might sell the fit out. You might just sell the client list. You might sell all of it. Because I know some people, for example, with gyms, they've just gone, nah, you're not getting clients in anything. You can just buy the fit out and the equipment. And I could imagine it would be the same for beauty. And then there's so many other variables like will staff stay? Will employees stay? Like there's literally no guarantee. What was your kind of main features or things that you ended up evaluating the business from?
what they're looking at when they're buying one of these businesses, it's literally turnkey. So when you walk in, everything you see you own. So it's the staff, it's the machines, it's the product on the shelf, it's all the clients in that database, it's everything. And that's really hard to work out the value of. Not only that, which I found something was really interesting, it's the value of the lease that you have, or the term that you have left on your lease. So for example, you might walk in and buy this business, but she's only got 1 year left. So the value then is dramatically less because there's not enough years for you to make back your investment or your return on investment in that time. So how someone else would value that, even though they're literally walking in and they're buying hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of machines, that doesn't even come into play because you've only got a year left to use all of that equipment, to have the stuff there, to have the product. So that's something you have to consider as well. So when I was actually renewing my term, the franchisor doesn't really like you to negotiate your own lease, but I did, because I wanted to make sure that I already had those discussions in place to renew. And they're not going to not renew you if you're pulling those numbers in a small shopping centre when you're one of the highest earners, because they get a percentage of your cut in the shopping centre. So for me, I made sure that I negotiated a lease so that we could have that signed off before I then relisted the business for sale. So I had a longer term for them to take on board. So then their return on investment was able to be, what's the word for it? The return on investment was able to be seen because they know that in X amount of years you're going to make this much money. So then they're going to get their money that they've invested back. Does that make sense?
Oh, that happened to my gym. So they had 3 or 4 of them in Perth, and then they just got bought out by a massive franchise chain, and they decked out the whole gym with all the new branding, the equipment, and then the lease came up for renewal. The prices got jacked up, and now they're having to close the gym down because they just can't afford it. And I think, wow, like obviously if you own a massive company with all these franchises, you probably got some profit and cash to burn. But seriously, you know, you're looking at $500,000 a year lease at this building and gym membership. So now I've got to find a new gym. And I'm just like, that must really suck for the business owner, because we are business owners. We're able to look at things from that perspective. Yeah. As a customer, you're just like pissed off because you're like, oh, now I have to find a new gym. But I could not even begin to imagine how heartbreaking that would be to have just bought a business, then the lease comes up for renewal, they jack the price up, and you're like, I just can't afford to do this now.
Yeah. And
huge cost.
Some of the big guys, they're not willing to negotiate on whatever the renewal rate is. It is what it is, and that's it. Yeah, it's really challenging. And if I didn't have any experience in negotiating leases at all, I just tried to do it because I knew that that was a consideration for the potential buyer from my previous experiences of trying to sell twice before that. But yeah, you just live and you learn.
So if you had one piece of advice that you could give to Shamara back before she bought into the franchise business model, what would you say to her?
I would take this piece of pen and paper and I would write this down. In your contract, if you are 100% sold on buying a franchise, I would make sure that you know your exit strategy. I would make sure you know how the franchisor will tick off what your business is worth and what calculation they will agree to, because that was another thing. They had to agree to the value as well. I would make sure that you understand the different royalty fees that they may charge and whether they're able to add on more fees. I would ask in this industry, if there is NPD or new product development, whether you have to take them on board, whether you have to, or whether it is just an option. Because some businesses will make you take new technology on, and that's obviously going to affect your profitability. They're probably my key things that I would look for. And then I would also try and find out how much input you have as a partner, if that is the structure that it is, if it's 50-50. I would ask or have it written in my contract how much input you have as a business owner or as a partner in that franchise, how much say you have with changes, and whether there is a sale to private equity or any other buyer for them, whether you have an option to exit at that time also. Because if you can get that in a contract and that is a unicorn contract, I would do it. Because for me, it was probably one of the best things I did. There was a lot of hard learnings in there, but I still don't regret it. And I would do it again if I had a contract like that.
Oh, that's really valuable to know. And thank you for sharing, because this information is not readily available online. And if it was, you probably wouldn't have had to go through half the stuff you did. So Thank you for sharing that value, because I know, for many people, when you're going through it, you've just got to suck it up and find a way to get through. And it's quite lonely and isolating at times.
And you get so excited. Like you see the numbers and you go, oh my God.
They sell you the dream.
That sounds amazing. And you want it. And you just want it. You don't care what that contract says. And that's where they try to get you.
So moving on from the franchise model, you're in a different season of your life now.
Mm-hmm.
You're working on a new app called ServiceCue. I'm really curious, what is it and how does it help beauty business owners and staff?
I'm so excited, Sammy, because I feel like the app was created because of all the challenges that I faced in that business, in that really busy business model. So having 12 staff and having high volume clientele, for us to be all over what treatment plan that customer has, what products we're prescribing, have we given them the right pre and post care for them to take home, use at home, but also to make sure that they're prepping. So if you think about all of these businesses that have lasers now, that have peels like Jesna's or peels like Milano peel that they wear and they go home, they might be given a piece of paper or they might be sent an email that tells them what to do at home. And here's your collection of products that you have to use. How many times have you been given a full skin consultation, a full treatment plan, a full product prescription, and remembered every single thing? Not only that, they have to give you what to do and what to stop before you come again. And then, and don't use that product after, but you can use this. There's so much to remember.
I get so overwhelmed. I love my skin therapist. She is amazing. But she'll write it on a piece of paper for me, give it to me, and then I'll lose that piece of paper. And then I'm messaging her and she sent it in a voice note. So then I've got to listen back to all the voice notes. It's a nightmare. And it's not saying that she doesn't know what she's doing. It's just I'm forgetful and I lose things because I got 50 million things going on in my life, as we all do.
Yeah.
Such a real problem in the industry. And also it costs so much to the business owner too, because, if you've got clients who are coming who aren't prepped, then it's a very awkward conversation for your staff to say, hey, I'm so sorry we can't perform this treatment. Like the staff feel awkward about it. The client feels awkward. It's just not great. How do we avoid that through what you're creating?
Well, it's just a negative customer experience. And then that imprints on them as a customer because that wasn't so great. Do I want to come back? Probably not, because the next person might give it to me a little bit simpler. So what I've created is an app that does all of those things for you. And it's just so simple. I guess being creative from a beauty therapist, I get what we need and what tools we need in the treatment room to do it for us. So the customer gets a free app. They download it, and on that app will have everything that therapist has prescribed. So all of the products, what days to use them, when to use them, what time of the day, how much. The technology will actually be that intuitive. It will be able to understand if that person is using that product morning and day, well, then it will probably run out at this time. So let's send them a little nudge to repurchase through your clinic store so that they don't buy elsewhere. But not only that, just a treatment plan, just to say, okay, these are all of the services that we've booked you in for. These are all of the dates. This is what you have committed to. These are your skin goals, which is so important because it keeps that customer on track. If you are aligned with your customer as to what they want to achieve for their skin goals, and you can clearly visually see the changes in their skin, from the minute that they have the treatment to a week at home to 2 weeks to 4 months, you can log and track the progress of their skin and how it changes. So there's so many intuitive features that we have The main focus for me was making that customer experience just simpler and digitizing everything that we write on paper. So if you prescribe a skincare regime, what I actually also used to do was get a Nico pen and write number 1, number 2, number 3, and AM and PM on the bottle. And it used to do my head in, but that's how we remember to use them properly. And if they're not prepped properly, you can't do the right treatment. But also as a therapist, if you can jump in there and the client's logged their photo from home and you can see that all of that pigment has lifted, and then you can see what's working with underneath, you can prep yourself for that next time that customer's in with what settings you're going to use on that skin, because you know how it's reacted after that first treatment before. And then you're so much more prepared for your day. The app will also help with creating a database of before and after photos, as long as your client ticks off that they're happy for you to use them on socials. That's an incredible network of photos that you can use for marketing, to help to build trust with your customers, help to express what type of services and what kind of results you get. So it's so fantastic. There's so many different nuances to the app. And at the time that this podcast launches, we should be ready to launch. So my software developers were like, Shamara, don't let too much out, because as far as we're aware, there's nothing really like this out there yet. But we are so excited because it's so simple. And for me, I was like, why don't I have this? Why is everything paper? Why are we wasting trees? Let's do this better. And that's, I guess, how ServiceCue was born. And in turn, that's going to make your therapist so much more aware of the type of treatments they're prescribing. Not only will the clients have an app, the therapist or the professional will have their app that the business owner controls. So when they're in the treatment room, they open up their app and they can write the client treatment plan, their products, and any pre and post care that they would recommend for that customer. And it would link to the customer app straight away. Not only that is we also have a business dashboard, and it's a really simple business dashboard. So the clinic manager can log in, or the business owner, and just sort of get a bit of a feel for what kind of treatments the girls are recommending, what products are selling, and then you can kind of get a bit of what they're rebooking. So are they rebooking? What dates did they rebook in? Very, very simple data just at a glance, so that your managers can then have those touch points with your therapist to let them know, okay, you're selling all these treatments. That's great. These are the products that you're selling. We're not really moving this, or we're not cross-referring into our injector. There's so many different, just simple reports that will be just at a glance. You don't have to filter through all the different reports to try and find the data to set up your day for your team. And it will also gamify. So it's got some like really cool incentives for staff. So if they hit their incentives, we're hoping for in time, this is just me thinking out loud, that we would have partners or sponsors that will be able to incentivize our staff. So if they recommend X amount of treatments and those clients buy them and commit to them, then you'll get this as your reward. So almost like a reward system, like a frequent flyers program within the app. So that's something to come. It's really exciting that we're working on.
Oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. And from a business consulting perspective, it is a huge gap in the industry when the customer journey just lacks. If you don't have those touch points, if you don't give them the information they need, if you don't build on that relationship, it's very easy to have a high turnover of clientele. And, you know, when you speak to most people before they realize that like the rebooking is the issue, not getting new clients, like they always think, oh, more clients, more sales, that will fix the problem. But a business owner who's starting to look at like where are the actual gaps, like where are the holes in the bucket that are just constantly leaking out, it's actually usually rebooking, and it's having those client relationships or increasing the value of your current customers. Like all of those kind of problems will be solved by this app, which is why I'm so on board with it, because I think it's going to be a very valuable tool. I know something that you mentioned before is that it's not just ServiceCue, like there's the opportunity to also white label it for brands. Tell me a bit more about that, because honestly, if I was like, oh, beauty industry leaders app, like I would be like, oh, that's so cool. Like I definitely need this for my clients.
I think it builds trust for your brand, and it makes customers feel like they're in your world. And it's you that's telling them, it's not just ServiceCue. So I love the idea of white labeling, and probably in my mind, I think it'd be interesting to see what the market tells me to see if that's more what they're after. But if they choose to white label, so it'll be all their branding, all their colors, it will look and feel similar to like what your website does. It'll just be a skin, but the functionality of the app will all be ServiceCue. So that user experience is just more aligned with your brand.
And so realistically, who is this app actually for? Is it for sole traders? Is it for teams? Is it for franchises, or is it for everyone?
The app is for everyone. So I think as a business owner, because I've gone through so many different waves of life, I wanted to build something for solo operators because you feel so incredibly lonely. So why shouldn't you have access to this? It is for small businesses, medium size, and then we have an enterprise option. So if we are able to get on board a large franchise chain, for example, there is that option as well. More than likely, they will want it skinned, so that it looks and feels like them. But absolutely, it's for everybody.
And then in terms of how it all works, are they paying a monthly subscription? Is it a once-off purchase? Like, how does the actual app work? Because I know on the App Store, like back in the day, you used to just buy an app, and now there's a lot of subscription-based models. Like, how is it going to work for people if they want to buy this?
So I'm going to go down the line of a subscription model. So you can choose whether it's yearly or monthly, whatever you want to pay. The client's app is free though. So for any business that signs on, if the client downloads the app and they're affiliated with your business, it's free. So it's no charge to them. So that really incentivizes them to actually follow what you're prescribing. And there will be a professional subscription and then obviously an enterprise subscription. That takes a lot more data and time and energy to be able to set that up. So it's really, really simple. The subscription model, I think, is the way that most software companies are going. It's just simple. It's easy. And I'm really excited because hopefully at the time of this launch, I'll be able to share with everybody that we're going to do a really substantial free trial, because it's important to me that business owners can actually use the features that we have. So there's no point doing a free trial for 2 weeks, because there's no way that you're going to be able to get that client in, take great photos, and touch base with them again in 2 weeks to see the after photo. You know what I mean? Or be able to build on that skincare prescription that they've been using, or see the customer actually run out of product and then reorder through your store. So I want you to be able to use all those features. So we'll be offering a free period for up to 6 to 8 weeks, which is pretty wild. Amazing. You don't really get that anymore, but it's important that you try the features and you know how valuable they will be to your business. So then you can actually use them and love it. And I know people will.
Do you know what makes me laugh is, like, despite your 6 to 8 week free trial, which I think is incredible, I know people go, oh my gosh, this is so cool. They'll like download it. And then in the week before, they're probably like, oh, I should probably go check that out. Don't be that person. If you're going to use this, do it from the start. That's what I've learned all the time with my subscriptions. I'm like, if I'm going to commit to it, I'm going to commit to the trial, like, use it to the best of the ability. Don't wait until the night before it runs out, because you just don't get to experience all the features and the benefits of it if you're trying to be that last minute person.
100%.
How can your software, your app, how can this improve client retention, treatment consistency, and the way staff follow through on aftercare and rebooking?
Yeah, so the client experience will be more seamless. So they're able to follow the prescription or whatever the professional has recommended from the start all the way to the finish. And hopefully there is no finish. Hopefully they will just keep, moving in different areas of your business. From using the app, you'll create a system that your staff can follow that's simple. So for example, Sammy, if I was trying to get this in or try and educate you about as a therapist with how to use it, I would say, Sammy, this is how your consult's going to go. Do your consult as you normally would, but when it gets to opening ServiceCue, you're going to map out your treatment plan. This is how you're going to prescribe. This is how you're going to educate your customer with how to use their side of the app. You're going to, in turn, create a system that's going to be easy for the staff to implement. And as a business owner, obviously anything new, there's always going to be staff that find it hard to see change. But I think if everybody in this day and age is going more tech-based anyway with everything. Like no longer do you have a notepad where you write notes, you just write it in your notes app on your iPhone. Everything is going to be digitized. In terms of rebooking, obviously having the treatment plans will always help with your rebooking. If you've mapped out a customer's treatment plan that links to their skincare goals and conditions, they're never going to say no to committing to it because you're listening to their concerns, you're aligning with what their goals are, and that's how your treatment plan is mapped out. So your rebooking rates will naturally increase. And they won't be forgotten because you're going to have the systems in place for the therapist to follow and implement ServiceCue within that skin room. The labour from staff that it takes for you to then write an email with their aftercare or write an email about all of the products that you've prescribed and how to use them, if that's how staff members are currently doing it, that's going to cut down that paperwork or that admin time. Also, and obviously that's less wages, which is where a lot of the money leaks in business.
And then in terms of like who this could help, I know I asked before about, the size of the business, but when I hear a lot of what we're talking about, it's mainly skin, it's injectables, it's laser. Are you also looking to launch this in other areas of the beauty industry? For example, lashes, brows, body sculpting. Like, who is this primarily targeted to in the industry?
Yeah, so we are targeting skin and body clinics, so body sculpting clinics, absolutely. We are targeting at the moment laser clinics, skin clinics, beauty salons, lash checks, laser tattoo removal as well, which there's always a lot of complications that can occur with treatments like that because they can be so full on. My vision for ServiceCue, Sammy, is to one day I'd love to have something like this in the healthcare system.
Yes, wow.
And that's my vision for it. So I don't know if I should say this. So my target market is actually the beauty industry. My research market is actually the beauty industry to see if the application can handle what I need it to do at such a large scale. And then I would love to get this into the healthcare system because there's so many different surgeries, and I've done it myself. I've had surgeries for my children. For example, my son, he had his tonsils, adenoids removed and his turbines done. And the doctor said to me, if he has a severe bleed, you need to call me straight away. Here's my business card. Here's all the pieces of paper and here's your little aftercare pack that you need to follow. And this is what you need to do, this, this, and this. Meanwhile, my child's just come out of full general anesthetic. He is completely miserable, crying on my shoulder, and he's in so much pain, sucking on an ice block. And then I'm trying to absorb all this stuff I need to do after. There's so much information. There's a massive gap for it in the healthcare industry as well. So my vision is for this to be way bigger than what it is. And that's my goal because we're heading into an aging population. We're heading into an era where there are going to be a lot of more health complications purely because we are aging, and we need to make this process simpler. I have another example. My mother-in-law had open heart surgery. They gave her a book to read before and after.
Oh, no. She would not be in the headspace to be reading that after that.
She's 75 years old and she's already anxious. There's such a market for it, and there's just nothing like it.
I think it's super valuable to have technologies and things like that because when you look at how we're moving as a society, we are on our phones all the time, to carry, like when I went to uni, to carry big, heavy books. I was carrying about 18 kilos of books to a day at uni. That is so bad for your back. I'd rather just have it on my laptop. Notifications, we are hardwired to see them on our phone. Oh my gosh, you lose the shopping list or the to-do list that you put on paper and you're frustrated, but it's so much easier to put it on your notes app. So all of the stuff that you're saying, it makes sense with the way that everything's moving, and also with the introduction of AI, being able to have, chatbots that you can ask questions and get an answer from for simple things will also reduce the amount of time it takes for people to get support, which in turn improves the customer relationship, but also it reduces the workload, the wages, the admin that is required in the back end to just keep those customers happy. I see so much potential with this. And I also know recently, by the time this podcast airs, it definitely won't be recently, but I know you put it out there to kind of test the waters in some of the Facebook groups, and it went viral. So many people were commenting saying, I need this. What is this? If someone is listening to this episode right now going, I want to find out more, like, what is this? I need this. How do I get my hands on this? Where would you suggest that we send them? What information do we need to give them so that they can get their hands on this?
So I would head straight to our website. So www.ServiceCue is spelled CUE.com. Alternatively, you can also just go to our socials. So ServiceCue app is our Instagram handle, just to get a bit of a feel and a vibe. By the time that this launches, we will have a lot of specific content in regards to the features, the pricing. Whereas at the moment, we're being a little bit ambiguous with what we can and we can't say because competitors are out there in the market. But I know that we can do it better than anybody, and that's where my expertise comes in with customer service and listening to the business owners, what they need, what's working, what's not, how can we evolve, how can we iterate. AI will be incorporated with the app. There will be a chat function as well. AI will be able to understand what is a normal response post-service and what's not, so then it can alert you to a potential complication. There's so many ways that we are integrating AI, and I'm currently learning about AI bots and how they all work, and YouTube is amazing. But it's incredible. So much to look forward to.
Wow. I'm so excited. I think it'll be epic. And if you need someone to help you launch it and do a masterclass, like, sign me up. I will hype it up for you.
Yeah.
I know you also just recently launched a podcast, which is called Just a Beauty Therapist. What's your mission with it, and what made you hit record?
My mission, look, even though, I've had so many years in the industry, and I just feel like I have so much to say. Every time I had a new staff member come on board, I would just take them under my wing, and I just feel like I can share that with people. And it purely just comes out of my goal is just to educate beauty therapists, be on their level. I'm not a business owner, and I feel like there's so many apps that are focused on beauty and business. There's not a whole lot out there that are just really simple listening pieces of short and long form content that the girls can just plug into their car, pop the podcast in, listen, and hopefully take some value from what I'm sharing on how they can run their day better when they get to their place of work. But also, I'm really big on girls taking ownership of their own education, especially women in business. If we want to move better and move better within our careers, we have to educate ourselves. It's not up to the business owner to do that. And that's something that I'm really passionate about, because you would always get the staff members come in and they'll be like, I want to do more training. And then you train them. And then there's no after training that they do for themselves to cement that learnings that they've just done. They just expect that they get sent to a training and they learn it. And this way, they can just plug it in, listen to it on the car, or I've done some shorter episodes where they may be able to listen to it or use it in a morning meeting or a morning huddle to amp them up for the day, or just some tips and tricks on how they can tweak their skin consultations to get a better outcome before they go in and start their day as well.
That's super valuable, because if you've got people who come on board with using ServiceCue and you're teaching those skills in a short podcast, it's very easy for them to almost go, this is your homework, go listen to this, rather than sit down, go and explain everything, have you listen? Like, they can just keep going back and listening. And I feel like the way you leverage your podcast by creating content that specifically solves problems for the therapist is so powerful, because when I speak about it with Ellie on the podcast, we're like, in beauty, you see business owners invest so much into the actual technical skills and services of like how to provide this service, how to use this machine, but they don't actually teach you the other skills that are required. For example, how to hold the consultation on the deep psychological level. They might ask you, here's what's question. They might tell you, here's the questions to ask, and, here's what we should be selling them, but they don't actually go through maybe the mindset behind it or the psychology behind it or what you need to do when a customer isn't happy. Like, how do you handle that situation? So for anyone who is listening to this and you've got a team, I'd highly recommend going and checking out Just a Beauty Therapist, because Shamara's got some really great episodes that I think would be valuable for you to send to your team if they aren't hitting the mark.
Yeah. Just a little subtle, you should really listen to this.
Yeah.
And there is actually an episode there at the start that talks about just them really owning their own education. It's not just up to you as a business owner to send them to all these courses that cost you so much money.
So you've had multiple reinventions in your career. What advice would you give to someone who's listening and they're in a rut and questioning their next step?
What my advice would be, people will always critique and judge your choices in your life, whether they're friends, family, or someone you don't know. But you have to put all that negativity to the side. If you really know what you want in life, just go for it. I just advocate for putting yourself out of your comfort zone. That's where you're going to learn and grow. And if you don't do it, you'll regret it. Especially when you get to a different season in your life and you have a family and you have children. If you're a young therapist and you've got the opportunity to fly to Hayman Island and work in that day spa, you might love it or you might hate it, but you're putting yourself out there and you're learning new skills, and that's where you grow.
Yes. I love this. It's like when you talk to most people, they don't regret the things they've done. They usually regret the things that they didn't do.
Absolutely.
So be the person who just does it.
Yeah.
And now that you've had all these different experiences, I'm really curious, like, what does leadership in the beauty industry mean to you now, especially going from like therapist to franchisee to tech founder?
Look, leadership to me is always being able to understand who you're speaking to. So, for example, if you're leading your staff in your beauty business, you should be in the trenches. Not all the time, but you should be in there and you should understand what your staff are going through. Because I can tell you, 9 times out of 10, if you can get on their level and you can understand where they're coming from, you'll be able to lead them and you'll be able to steer them in a way that's going to be a positive impact on your business. So that would be my first thing. A good one for me, and because I've had so many different challenges within my career, is leadership to me is sticking to your values and what you know is right and how you want to move within your business. Because if you don't, you will lose so much sleep at night. And then one other point that I wrote is leadership to me is treat people how you would like to be treated and be clear with your expectations. So if you've got staff in your business that potentially are underperforming and you haven't been clear with your expectations, that's fine. But you need to treat them how you would want to be treated as well so you can address the problems. Does that make sense?
100%. You can't just expect the world of someone and then criticize them and then expect them to rise to the occasion. It just doesn't work that way, does it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm loving all of this. We're going to work towards wrapping up the episode and doing a rapid fire round. I know that you probably listened to so many of these episodes and you're like, oh, always listening to the rapid fire round of other people, but now it's your turn. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this. So what's a treatment you still love performing if you were to get back in the treatment room?
I am obsessed. I love it. I love laser pigment removal. I love how it feels. I love how it sounds. I love the results. I love seeing the skin change. I love the pigment lifting. It's my favorite.
Love it. What's the hardest but most important business lesson?
In business, there's a lot of people that will not care about you as a person. They care about the result that they're wanting to achieve. So never forget about that. Don't be naive. Don't just go for the shiny objects like I used to do. Trust your gut and know your people.
Very valuable. What's your favorite moment from your time in the industry so far?
My favorite moment, because it's not really a moment, but my favorite thing about the industry favorite experience is just being able to mentor my team. I love my team. I still talk to them and text them, but they're like, that's the most favorite part about being in this business is the people that you meet and the people that you can I guess, mold and see them grow and blossom into amazing therapists. Love it.
Very wholesome. What's your go-to productivity or mindset habit?
Oh, you're going to love this, Sammy. So I always will message Sammy. I'll be like, Sam, I listened to this podcast and it comes at a perfect time because I'm doing this, this, and this, and this. So for me, podcasts, I cook dinner and I listen to podcasts. That's usually when I do it, or I'm at the gym. And my husband will start trying to talk to me and I've just got my ears and it's like, what are you doing? But that's just what I do because that's me, decompressing. I'm listening. Calming music is great. Exercise. That's what I need. Or being outside. I love being outside.
Have you been one of the OG listeners from this podcast? Like, when did you start listening?
I probably started listening like a good, probably not OG, but probably like 6-7 months ago, before Christmas.
Crazy. And now you're on.
But when I first started, I listened to just random episodes that I thought that I would like. And then I went back through and then I started, from the start.
Yes. I think that's what I've found with a lot of people. They either go, oh, I'm feeling like listening to this one. And then you've got the loyal listeners who are listening in every single Monday. So sometimes when I'm explaining something that I'm going through or I'm launching something, they're like, oh, I didn't know about that. I'm like, yeah, because that was 6 months ago. But for some reason, when they click on it, it just happens to be the episode they land on. So hopefully whoever clicks on this episode, they are actually finding it comes at the right time, especially with the client experience and the app, because that will be super valuable to get your hands on. What is something that you want to see more of in the beauty space?
So I think when I was in my franchise, I was in a bubble. I didn't really reconnect with anybody in the industry. And now that I've come out of that bubble, I've started reconnecting with people I knew when I was a rep and on Facebook community pages. And I've found that sometimes it can be quite catty, can be a little bit like snarky almost. And I would just love if people would just be a little bit kinder and less judgment, because there are some genuine business owners that might have a question and somebody might be an expert at it and they could answer it really well. Like, we need to create an open space for anything. And I just, my only wish would just be, let's just dial that down a notch. Just kind. Be kind.
I'm so with you there. I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to all learn from each other and also just have empathy. Like, you never know what's going on behind closed doors, and
100%.
tearing someone down publicly on a Facebook group, it just doesn't sit right with me, especially after being bullied in high school. I think if you've been bullied and you've actually had negative experiences of people posting on you online and things like that, you would just never do that to someone else. I think
and it's a big thing. To post something in a public forum is huge.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not, it's huge.
And at the end of the day, something that I learned from my media training was the only people who, like, the people who comment negative things, especially on like the news and stuff, like, they literally have nothing better to do with their lives. People who are doing something positive, who are uplifting other people, like, they will be there to support, or they won't comment anything. It's like when your parents, I don't know if your parents said this, but my mum, oh my gosh, she drilled this into me. If you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say it. And I think that is such a great thing that we can all take into mind. Like, if you see something you don't like on social media, unfollow. Like, you don't have to buy into it, because your energy and your creativity and your vibe, that comes from doing things that light you up and being positive and surrounding yourself with good people. So I love that advice, and I think that's really valuable.
100%. My mum used to say, you never know what someone else is going through, no matter what it is. So it's just stuck, all those little things that you say. And now as a mum, I'm like, be kind, sharing's scary.
Legit. You're like, okay, but the money mindset things that you ingrained into my brain, like, we can't afford it, I didn't need that one.
No. Shamara, is that a good idea? How much is that going to cost? I don't know. Let's just try it anyway. I was so young.
You are still so young. You are so young. You are beautiful. You are all the things. Like, I feel like you try to make yourself sound like this dinosaur that, like, can't talk on social media or, like, do this podcast. I'm like, you have it all within you. Listening back to this episode, you have the knowledge, you have the thing. And, like, it's not just you, it's the people who listen to this and they doubt themselves. Like they're so scared to share their story. They're so scared to share the mistakes they've made. But if anything, that's what brings your people towards you. Like you will create better connections through that. So founder-led marketing, Shamara, I want to see your face on ServiceCue. I want to know like what's going on. Like give me updates.
Behind the scenes. Yeah. I know I'm trying to still work out how I do it without giving stuff away. Because my developers were like, Shamara, just be really careful. And I was like, okay, well, I still need to show what I'm doing. It's a bit tricky.
Well, this episode's not going to air until it's pretty much launched. So
we'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh, Shamara, thank you so much for sharing your journey so openly. From starting in small salons to selling a $2 million clinic and now creating a tech platform that could redefine the way we support clients and clinic teams. Your story is such an incredible reminder of what's possible when you lead with resilience, vision, and a desire to change the game. If people want to reach out and learn more about ServiceCue or you, where is the best place to find you?
So first off, I would go to our website for ServiceCue, so www.serviceque.com. Or if you put .com.au, we own both domains, so it doesn't matter what you put in. Also, all of our socials, so at Just a Beauty Therapist Instagram. You can find my podcast, Just a Beauty Therapist, on all of the platforms that you find all your normal podcasts. And then we also have ServiceCue on Instagram and TikTok.
Amazing. So exciting. We'll link ServiceCue and Just a Beauty Therapist podcast in the show notes. If you love this chat, please screenshot and tag us. We would love to hear what landed most for you. And also, if by the time this episode airs, if you've got a wait list, we'll add the wait list for the ServiceCue app in there as well. Until next time, keep leading with impact and never underestimate the power of a beauty therapist with a big vision. Bye.
Love it.
Audience exclusive.